I picked up some sanded birch plywood at Home Depot and cut out the template for the Vancillary headliner shelf. I cut it out a little bit deeper on this side than what is shown because I want it to come out a little bit farther on the headliner. So that's the reason for that gap. I taped it down, traced it out, and now we are going to cut it. So I'm going to load it up on some sawhorses and start cutting. I have laid out some sawhorses to hopefully keep my board intact. And now I'm going to remove the template and then cut it out using my jigsaw. I finished cutting out my piece. I left this on. This is where the template ended, just because I'm not sure if this bows out kind of or what. And then I just utilized the edge of the other piece. And I am only going to stain this. I'm not going to cover it in fabric for now. If I decide to later, maybe I will, but I like the look of stain. So that's what we're going to do. And I highly recommend this polyurethane. It has UV inhibitors. And I got this recommendation years ago from a Home Depot employee. They asked what I was building. I told them a drawer. It's going to be in my vehicle. And so they told me about this. And I'm going to show you how well this works on my drawer that I had for my fridge module in my car. Now, this is where the fridge sat, was in here, and you can tell how yellow that is, even though that really wasn't seeing the sun as much as the front. Here's the front of the drawer, and you can see how nice and light that still is. It hasn't yellowed, but the inside has yellowed. So I highly recommend that urethane instead of the polyethylene, whatever it's called, if you do not want your cabinets or wood to yellow in your outdoor project. We're going to install the bracket right now to test out the shelf. And the front bolt closest to the windshield is 9/16 and the back one is 5/32. So we'll take those out, and I'm going to make it simple and use a screwdriver with an extension. Comes out really easily, and then we'll take out the back one. I have both of the bolts. Whoopsie. Don't lose your bolt. I have both of the bolts removed, so let's go install the bracket. You're going to pull down the shelf that you just unscrewed, and the brackets are made to have a nice curve that follows the line of the headliner. So put it on correctly. Just fit it over the plastic pieces. I'm going to put the camera down to do that, and then we'll reinstall the bolts. There can be a little bit of a gap, so I just hit it with the palm of my hand to force it on there. And now I'm going to reinstall the bolts. When you reinstall the bolts, I recommend installing the back one first because this front one is a little bit harder to line up in the hole. And as long as at least for me, as long as I've had the bolt installed tightly in the back hole, I can line it up better for the front bolt. So let's take a look at what this looks like from inside. Here's the brackets. I really didn't think I'd like the gray color initially, but it blends in really well, and I think it'll look good with my finished wood piece. So looks really streamlined. Let's go ahead and test fit our shelf. There's a little bit of a gap there, but that's probably better to, if you're going to install fabric and some padding, that should help that. I think I am going to router the edges along the front of it, especially here in the corner, because it's a little bit more square than what the headliner is. And I think I'm actually just going to stick with this is where the template ended. And it looks like that'll be a good ending point for the headliner shelf. You can screw it in from inside of the, whatever this is, sunglasses holder, but I'm not going to do that. There are 3 bolts in each bracket, so I think that'll be sufficient. And I have the medium roof fan, so there's not going to be a ton of space. And I'm going to put the end cap for me is going to be a piece of extruded aluminum. I've got the second coat of the spar urethane on. This one was a little bit heavy, but that's okay. And then I'll do the underside because the underside will be the roof over my head of the shelf. So depending on how this coat dries, I'll probably do a third coat, maybe. I laid down my extruded aluminum bar and marked out 5 holes, 1/4 of an inch, because I'm going to use 1/4 20 bolts. And right now I am installing the bolts. They're these with an Allen head, and then using the nuts from 80/20, and then I will slide the bar over the bolts. I've slid the bar over most of the bolts, and I'm going to show you the last one. So you want to leave it, you don't want to screw it in all the way. Leave plenty of room. Should be good. And then you can slide it over. Oh no, I did it on the wrong side. I routered the visible edge that you're going to see that's above your head, and I left the other side flat, but it really didn't matter because this wasn't a perfectly straight cut, which is fine. So I used the other side to mark out, and these are pen marks, so hopefully I can maybe magic eraser these out because I do not and will not refinish this. So this is just a trial run on how it looks. Maybe I'll end up covering it in fabric. I don't know. But there, that bolt that hole busted through in that one. What do you do? There are some benefits to covering it with fabric. You can hide your mistakes like I have currently visible. So let's try to now install it in the van. See if we've screwed the holes in accurately. Pro tip, now that I'm a pro, I highly recommend just marking out these front 2 bolts on both sides and line those up because those line up. But my back bolt back there, it does not line up. So I'm going to mark it now that I know those are for sure lined up, and then re-drill the holes. But the extruded aluminum bar looks really nice. Pretty nice. Another pro tip, because I am a pro now, the nut all the way in the back here, to make it easier to put it on, just push the screw all the way down and then line the nut up over the hole, and then you'll push the screw up while holding the nut, and boom, there you go. Let me show you how I screwed it in. I'm using a 3/8 socket with the fixed end, and then this DeWalt adjustable, I don't know what you call these, but I just got it at like Lowe's or Home Depot or something. This one, the bolt, when I start screwing in from the bottom there, the wrench will probably go up against this side, because on this side, when I was screwing it in, the wrench went up against the front here. So I'll have to try it out and see. So I was able to use that as leverage and just screw it in from the bottom, and it worked perfectly. It just turned this into the wall and then held its place, and then I could screw from the bottom and it tightened the nut on. And here's what we're working with. I forgot to put, because I can attach things to this, I might still be able to. Yeah, I should be able to put in some nuts in here and attach, I don't know, clothing racks, even maybe a curtain, but it's looking good so far. And now I can put the blobs back.